All right, welcome everybody to the June 24th, 2026 Citrus City Council workshop. First up at our workshop today, we have an update from Deschutes County Sheriff's Office from Lieutenant Davis. Welcome, Lieutenant.
Good evening, everyone. Very busy time, obviously, right now, including today. We had a lot of people on and we were running all day long. So summer is definitely here. Made it through rodeo with not too many issues that I know about. We did have a debrief today about the rodeo parade and make some positive changes for next year, and just traffic flow issues, obviously, with the citywide event and a state highway being involved. That creates some complications, but we were able to work through it on the day of the event, and then we're working on fixes for next year with Jackson and Casey, and so should flow a lot better with the flagging contractor and everything involved there, and just kind of in the full swing of summer right now. So this is where we earn our money. So our folks are out running around doing a lot of different things, responding to calls, crashes, alcohol-related events, and kind of as the heat goes up, then so do the calls. So and kind of more the level of seriousness and the craziness of some of those calls. So it's definitely our busy time. So yeah. Other than that, I don't have a whole lot unless you have any questions.
Hello. I was just going to say, I know we've got our Saturday night music coming at our local venue here that can get kind of loud. And I think last year we had some complaints about that. And I think we had talked a little bit about whether you had the ability to measure some of the decibels, because we do have code. Can you respond to that?
Like, I know that Casey offered a decibel meter for rodeo. We really didn't get any complaints, maybe one complaint.
Okay.
And it was within the hours of operation, basically. But yeah, we have the ability if we need to get that, but we'll have coverage on through Friday and Saturday night during the big Ponderoo. So yeah, so we should be good.
I had a question. I've had a couple sightings downtown of golf cart type vehicles driving, parking.
Saw that myself.
Okay, so
one of those vehicles I saw was about to stop. It was a licensed, it's a plated some type of golf cart. So I was able to run a license plate on it, came back with insurance. The other ones that kind of have been elusive around town are not licensed, and I don't know how DMV is looking at that, but I've seen one around town that has a license plate, but I haven't had a reason to stop it yet. But they're not allowed on the roads unless they're licensed. They have to be licensed, insured. Driver has to be licensed and whatnot. So if it's just a regular golf cart, it's looked at almost like a off-highway vehicle, like a dirt bike or side-by-side, that type of thing, that they're not allowed on the roads. It's just a matter of us kind of catching them and having some education.
okay.
So, yeah, we've had some issues with juveniles now that school is out. I stopped a dirt bike on the road the other day, and so we try to do some good education and encourage them to walk at home. So it gets them a little bit of exercise along with their education, so that I had a father respond to the stop that I was on yesterday, and quite often they have more influence than I do, so it was a good educational thing. So yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, I just encourage, if you get complaints from citizens, have them call non-emergency.
Okay, that was going to
We
be
may
my
be
next
doing
question.
other things at the time, so.
Yeah, I did see a little posse of creative vehicle types with very young operators, and it was with a lot of shenanigans. I'm using a lot of flowery language. But yeah, I was like, should I call that in or not? So
Never hurts. If we're busy
Right.
on something else, higher priority, we will respond to it when we're clear. But a lot of times we're out looking for things. So
yeah, one of them was even on. They had one of each. There was like 5 or 6 of them, of everything you can think of. But one of them had those like really low to the ground, fat wheel dirt bike things.
Oh, yeah,
And that one going up and down Hood, and that one kind of scared me, because if you're backing up, you don't see that. He was so low to the ground, and he was also quite young too. So it was like that terrified me.
I think that may have been the young man I talked to yesterday.
Oh, okay.
So,
I hope so. I have one, the very one you're describing, maybe not, but if it's not, it's twin. Go by the house with 3 people on it. How they got 3 people on that thing, I have no idea. Going down Locust Street. And I don't know if it's the golf course that you spoke to, but there is a white one that goes up and down Locust. That it's definitely not a typical golf course golf cart because it goes very fast. And it does have turn signals. And the right turn signal is always going. I'm not sure why if they're going straight. So they're on Locust. I see them every day because I sit out front because I can't do much of anything else. And watch the world go by.
Since we're talking about road safety, I saw a carriage on the road today with trying to get people to ride with them. And I got their card. And I want to be really encouraging, but I also know that there's rules for horses and carts, wagons, and I want to just notice everybody that they're in town, and I'd like to be encouraging and everything. I just want to make sure that everybody in the city, including you, is aware of them, and they said they're going to work a lot more this summer than they have in the past, so yeah, so anyway, if there's anything we need to do as a policy board, as far as us at City Council, that we need to think about to make sure that they're operating properly, or if we need to make some rules or put some guardrails on, just let us know. Thank you.
I saw them today, and they did have a triangle on the back, so
That's a good start. I mean, I think it's great. I just wanted to bring it up since you were here, so.
Just please share our gratitude with your team. I know it's hard out there. Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
All right, I think that's it. Thank you for your time. Next on the agenda is our road safety audit update, and Paul Bertagna and our consultants will walk through this. Walk us through it. Anybody get that? Anybody like that? I'm helping you here. Okay, thanks. It's a tough crowd. It is tough crowd.
Live. I don't need one of these. Okay, thank you. So we have Kittleson and Associates, Cameron and Matt Kittleson here tonight to present our road safety audit findings from the project that we did back in March. And I believe we have Dan Serpico on as a panelist. Okay, so Dan was the ODOT representative. He manages the arts program for ODOT for Region 4, which is you might have to help me out, All Roads Transportation Safety Program. Yeah. So he was great, had great input, because we will be partnering with ODOT, maybe not on paying for the improvements, but as far as working with them to get them to meet current ODOT standards. So with that, this project came from a council goal to work with ODOT to identify locations for best pedestrian safety improvements on Cascade Avenue. So we contracted with Kittleson Associates and assembled a working group team for a quick 2 to 3 day audit of the corridor. The working group we had downtown business owners, Javier Luna, Lacey Weeks, Spencer Hamiga from Sisters Bakery, and David Moore from Sisters Business Association. And then we had Chad Davis from law enforcement. We had Dan Serpico from ODOT. City staff, myself, Jackson, Carey, Jordan was gone, and we had the mayor. Did I miss anybody? It's a pretty good group.
Dave Moore.
With Sisters Business Association.
Okay.
Yep. So Kittleson came out right during spring break, so we had pretty decent traffic counts. They did their initial audit of the corridor, both during the day and during the evening hours, even into after hours, as far as in the darkness, so they could see what the lighting was like the downtown. And then they brought that audit back to the working group the next day, got input from the group, and then the third day they went back and they presented their draft tech memo the third day to the group, received more input, and then we got the final draft from them. We took it to PWAB on the 12th, and I'll let Council President McDougall offer any feedback, highlights from that interaction, and then we are bringing it to you tonight to get your input. So with that, once we have your input, Kittleson can then go back, refine the final draft, and have the final report ready for us with the recommendations. And we've already budgeted $50,000 out of the street fund for some near-term improvements. So we're ready to go. This is, as soon as we get the buy-in, we'll be ready to go to get kind of the first phase of improvements installed, hopefully this summer and fall. So with that, I will kick it over to Matt, and he can walk us through.
Yeah, great. Thanks for the chance to be here to talk about this project. I'll hit just some of the quick highlights. I think Paul hit some of the things, just kind of the background, so I'll go quickly through it, and then Cameron will walk through what we found, what we observed, and then some of the recommendations. We'll go through this relatively quickly and then turn it to you guys to take the questions and discussion where you want to go with that. So next slide, please, Cameron. Just a quick overview. We'll talk about that background, what I just talked about, and then near and long-term improvements that are out there for consideration. So the corridor we looked at is really from Cascade Avenue from Pine Street in the west to Jefferson Avenue in the east. And really the intent of this is to identify the real life examples of what we could do to improve safety. So sometimes we look at this in the abstract and saying, let's look at crash records. We did some of that. We'll talk about kind of that review that we did, which was looking at what's happened, but then also looking at just the way the road is designed, feedback from stakeholders, feedback from the businesses that sit there all day long, so that we can plan improvements that are addressing things that might not yet have crash patterns associated with them. So the near misses that we hear, the things where people say, I watched this almost happen all day long. We talked about those with stakeholders as we went through it. So the intent of this is to go beyond crash data and really understand what are the smaller tweaks that could happen to make the system work better for everybody. Next slide, please. That starts with a review of the plans that we already have. So the city has a transportation system plan. Notably, there, as you all are very well aware, there's the alternate route that's being planned that has a big impact on this corridor. Specifically, when trucks eventually use that or vehicles use that changes the context of the road, and it may open up different improvements that we could coordinate with ODOT. So you'll see that throughout the presentation when Cameron gets into this, if this requires freight coordination, or as we get into the alternate route, this becomes more available. So there's the near term and then the long term view for how this corridor could work. There's a previous streetscape project, of course, and I mentioned the crash data already. So starting from the context of we're not starting from zero, we have plans. So how can we work with improvements that exist within those plans? Paul mentioned the schedule. This is what it looked like for us. So very full for 3 days. Cameron and another colleague of ours, Hermanus, who does a lot of these safety audits, were here on the ground doing this work and just spent a lot of time with people observing. And it's a great process because we don't take 3 weeks to write a report or 3 months. It happens in 3 days, and we get a lot done. So it's a lot of value for the community, and I think it worked really, really well. So with that, I'll turn it over to Cameron to talk through the things we saw, and then get to the recommendations and open it up for conversations. But please, if you have questions or comments throughout, interrupt, and let's talk about it when the moment's right.
Yeah. So I'll get started with some of our field observations and then also stakeholder input that we heard from the community. A very important one is pedestrian safety, crossing at intersections, and then also crossing between intersections, which you can see in the photo on the top right, and really kind of seeing the concern of kind of that danger there of crossing not at a marked crosswalk. We heard about speeding while mainly entering the downtown core. And then during off-peak times, when there aren't as many people or vehicles out, kind of through that downtown core as well. And then driver behavior, a lot of through traffic, people just trying to get through town, not really paying attention as much. And then just distractions in general while going through the downtown core. A lot going on, a lot of cars on side streets, a lot of people walking around. And then also noticed a lot of kind of visibility concerns with the crosswalks, with maybe if a parked car is in the parking there, it's hard to see the curb extensions, things like that. So getting into some of the suggested opportunities that we brainstormed, we'll split this into near-term and then longer-term opportunities. And one kind of important point is this is a toolbox of opportunities that are available to you all. They don't all need to be installed all at once or even ever, but just kind of having that a list of ideas of options. And then also mentioning a lot of these longer term suggestions would likely require, though, that US 20 alternate route that was mentioned before and rerouting the freight traffic away from the downtown core. So starting off, as we're approaching from the west, so the west side of downtown, for the near-term suggestions, we looked at some signage and then some striping improvements. The first one to double up the speed limit signs, so just adding another speed limit 20 sign across the street. Looking at these in-lane speed reduction pavement markings, which is that bottom figure, which is those short white dashes that start spread out and then get closer together as you get closer to that 20-mile-an-hour speed limit. And then installing speed feedback signs in strategic locations as you're coming into that downtown core around the curve.
Can I ask a question about the in-lane speed reduction markings? Are those are, I assume, more psychological, but do they have any legal weight? Is there any, they're just purely
a little more,
psychological?
Yeah, psychological.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's not like a double yellow line means you can't,
Yeah.
pass, but that they mean nothing beyond that.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's trying to encourage, gives people the perception of a faster speed, so they would slow down to match a slower speed. So there's effectiveness of those, and that's one of the things I'll mention throughout is that the recommendations are based on things that we have data to support that they're effective, right? So it's telling people the speed, reinforcing the speed we want people to go, and then trying to create an environment that encourages that speed.
Okay. Thank you.
This actually might be more of a Paul question, but these type of in-lane speed reductions, they're not super common. I think I've seen a few maybe in Bend or whatever. In terms of traffic volume on a highway, 10,000 trips a day or whatever, is it similar to any kind of road markings where annual you're putting on there, or is it, more of the decal, like how, I'm just wondering about how often do these things have to be replaced and, managed?
I think that's something we're gonna have to explore with ODOT, whether it ends up being a thermoplastic type product or an actual wet paint type product.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
We'll have to explore that.
And generally, we try to keep them out of the wheel path.
Right.
So that it improves the wear, but obviously we get big trucks, anything in the lane is going to get hit to some level.
It looks like they're 14 feet lanes width. I don't know here, but
I don't remember. I think that's right.
Yeah, I don't remember here. Downtown, they're around 14.
Yeah.
Moving to the approaching from the east side, very similar improvements here, doubling up those speed limit signs. These ones are at the kind of that merge between US 20 and 126, so that could be more easily missed as you're trying to avoid another vehicle. Then with that merge, there's some new kind of studies on this zipper merge sign that may help kind of improve the smooth flow of the merge. And then for the speed feedback sign on this side, we are really looking at the location west of the Locust Street roundabout. So kind of the opposite end of this merge from the roundabout. So as you're exiting the roundabout, instead of accelerating back up to a 30, 35 mile an hour speed, they would see this speed feedback sign and hopefully continue that kind of 20 mile an hour speed into downtown.
So that's like right here. Yeah.
Yeah.
So kind of on the school area. Yeah.
Yep, Chad was saying that he sees people just accelerating,
Yeah, they do.
Oh, absolutely.
hitting the whole shot coming out of the roundabout.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the slingshot. Okay, now I can go. I want to speak to the zipper merge. They work. And it takes a little education. People aren't real sure what it is initially. But with the restriping of the road and putting it in, I've done a number of trips over the Selwood Bridge in Portland at 5 o'clock. If you ever know the Selwood Bridge in Portland 5, that's a zipper merge bridge. 2 lanes go into one on the bridge. And people are very good about it, once they realize that's what you're supposed to do. So I like it better than what's there now, where there's a certain, I think people that are in the left-hand lane in your photo feel they have the right-of-way over the people in the right-hand lane when indeed you're supposed to merge. So I really encourage the zipper merge idea if we can get ODOT to agree to it.
So it's more than a sign. It would be repainting of the highway there to reflect that sign.
This is just a sign.
Okay.
But there were some other discussions about adding in that dashed striping in the middle there back. But I think this is just a sign.
Yeah, on the speed feedback sign, it's a great suggestion because roundabouts do provide traffic calming, but it's unfortunate it's far enough away that people feel they can accelerate. So this, I think, could do a lot to just maintain the traffic calming that the roundabout creates through downtown without the weird awkward middle.
And I don't think there's a 20 sign west of the roundabout either. I think this is the only one hidden in the shadows that nobody sees. It's not shadowy in that one, but it's usually in the shadows.
I don't have a microphone, but I don't think I need one either. Can I ask about those double 20s? Do you think they'd allow us to flash the edges of them like we do on our stop signs, or is that just not allowed as far as ODOT goes?
We'd have to look into that.
Yeah, I don't think that would be a typical application of a speed sign, but the speed feedback sign in conjunction with it is something that happens, and that's where you find those being more effective, is that people are getting, this is the speed, now you're getting feedback if you're actually complying with it. I saw one the other day that gave you a smiley face when you hit the right speed, which was nice. So, I mean, there's positive reinforcement you can go with it.
I mean, anything under 30 should be a smiley face.
Yeah.
Way higher than that, so unfortunately. Anyway, thank you.
Yeah, this is Dan over at ODOT. We don't usually use those lights and signs just from a maintenance standpoint. So maintenance right now is a big issue. We just don't have the funds to take care of many things.
Thank you.
Then getting into more of this downtown core area, some near-term suggestions here. Adding pedestrian warning signs like the one on the right at the kind of entry points to downtown at Larch and Pine. We don't want to add signs at every single crosswalk as that can really clutter the road, and then these signs aren't as noticeable to drivers if they're every single crosswalk. So kind of focusing the entry points there. Adding some sort of high visibility treatment to the curb extensions. Currently, the middle photo on the bottom is what's kind of your typical curb extension through downtown, where it has the kind of shorter reflective bollard, but putting something a little more noticeable at those crosswalk locations. And then just restriping some of the worn out crosswalk markings, like the one on the bottom left there.
So the the crosswalk markings, can those be more reflective? I mean, is that a possibility, doing like a glow in the dark or something paint, that so that at night it's like highlights that they're there when cars come in? Is that a thing?
They do have reflectivity when they get installed,
Okay.
but obviously after 10,000 trips a day over them,
Oh, sure.
you'll lose that.
But when they're fresh, they are.
They have little glass beads.
Oh. Okay, thanks.
Then getting into the long-term suggestions. These again are kind of this toolbox of options. So a lot of them can't be installed now, but just kind of having it in your back pocket. And then a lot of the lighting, and then we'll also talk about rectangular rapid flashing beacons. Both of these suggestions would probably require a little more community input on what kind of the feel of downtown, what you would like. So just keeping that in mind, the next couple slides here. But the first one is roadway lighting approaching Pine Street, so kind of on that curve, providing a little more nighttime visibility. And then next at Pine Street, so kind of the first intersection as you're getting into downtown, we have a few different options. One is the rectangular rapid flashing beacon, a mini roundabout, or a raised intersection. And these are all kind of for that speed reduction as you're coming into town, giving that kind of physical almost barrier to slow vehicles down as you're coming into town.
So the latter two require a lot of coordination with the freight community because they impact how trucks go over them or navigate them. That was true of the roundabouts installed on either side. So those are long-term. The rapid flashing beacons, those are where a pedestrian pushes the button and activates a flash. Those are installed more often. They have an expense to them to buy the equipment. So there's probably kind of a midterm, long-term option for that. One of the feedbacks during the audit was making sure that those flashing beacons are in a place where they're not distracting to the ambiance and kind of the feeling of downtown. So that's something, the community input part of it is making sure it matches, but they are effective at getting people to yield to pedestrians.
The purpose of upgrading the welcome sign, I saw your photos in the bigger presentation, is that to kind of let people know they're actually entering a city area as opposed to a highway?
Yeah.
It's just sort of a visual, again, kind of like the markings on the other end of the road. It kind of gives the intention that, hey, you're in town, slow down.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Do we have a way to, as a city, just to decide that Pine Street is right turn only, both directions? Or is that an ODOT issue as well? Is that something that's being considered?
You mean so it would only be right in, right out? So
right in, right out, both sides, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be something you'd want to make a decision on in conjunction with the larger transportation plan, because it would change the traffic flows. You may want to make an improvement at another intersection. I don't think that would require ODOT input. I'd want to make that choice more than just looking at this corridor, because you may put pressure on the other streets. Is it solving what you want it to solve? We're seeing a lot of conflicts here. Certainly, that was the feedback from the businesses. No cap right there. We hear a lot about that. So that placemaking component of it, sometimes limiting turns can just reduce conflicts, and then vehicles go quicker. So giving people crossing movements there, allowing those to happen, can create that calming effect we want for downtown. So those are kind of the factors I think you need to weigh for whether that was the right approach.
So just more appropriate for an overall plan that includes more information than you guys are using here?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. Thanks.
Yeah, I would like to follow up on Councilor Preden's question. I think that what I've observed at Pine, in fact, living in, that's one of my ways to get somewhere, as a number of us have, I generally now don't even try to get out onto Pine Street unless I'm making a right turn, because to get across or to make a left turn, typically you have to kind of shoot out into traffic and pray somebody's going the speed limit. You know, it's one of those ones where you just kind of roll the dice and hope you're going to make it. And when you're doing that, you're not looking for pedestrians as much as you're watching other vehicles. I think it is a somewhat dangerous intersection. So whatever we can do there to try to make it more pedestrian friendly, because we get an awful lot of traffic over to Snowcap, and in the summer it's very heavy traffic. So I mean, I go down and get in a different way, but I hear what you're saying and I understand that, but I also think there's some value to what Councilor Preeden has said, to think about ways that we can take that need to try to shove across traffic either one direction or the other to try to get that left-hand turn in without really paying attention to who's on the curb.
Yeah, well, I live probably 2 blocks from there, and I do find that there are a lot of parts of the day that functions just fine. I mean, it's just during high traffic times, so it's not completely unfunctional. So I'd want to be real careful how much we put a change in there, because it, you know, does have some functionality. I mean, as far as the just the right turn only. Now, highlighting pedestrians, bring them up in the world so that like they are visible. That is, I'm all in on that. So.
It makes sense to maybe as part of this final report to analyze the intersection.
Yeah.
Get some traffic counters and cameras and be shocked at what we'd see going on.
Yeah.
At that intersection.
Yeah. Go ahead, shock me. I would, you know, that would be helpful. Yeah, to have real numbers.
We've had
Yeah, as part of the video analysis that we can do for those kind of things, a lot of the data we get now can provide near miss information because it's a time and place exercise. So it would make sense. You have a computer program looks at how close vehicles crossed, if a bike crossed in front of a vehicle or behind a vehicle, those kind of things. So we can get some of that information that tells you more information. So there's things like that that we can work with Paul to explore.
That's cool. I like that.
We've had community feedback on this particular intersection being very dangerous. What is it about this intersection that makes it more problematic than our other intersections?
Well, I'll speculate. We certainly haven't done an analysis that would tell us specifically what the issue was, but the pavement is wide. I think Pine is a wide area, and so it gives people lots of places to be, which can create confusion. I think the activity around Snowcap certainly doesn't help the curbs that are getting installed. So one thing to know, we had done our work before the curb installation was being done. I haven't walked out there since they're there, but I go by it all the time, and I think that will help create a little bit of a narrowing effect. So I'm curious if there's a benefit to that. It also is around that curve, and people, you know, to the lighting question, you go out of the roundabout, then you go by, you know, the forested area. It probably changes now that we have the Gateway site in there, and we have some of the development happening, but it's relatively dark through there. And so as people enter, I don't think they're always expecting the activity that's present, and then also the uncertainty that vehicles face. The more we can create expectations for folks of when they should do something, when they might see somebody, the better. To Cameron's point on clutter with signs, we want to be intentional on when we use signs so that people pay attention to them. And I think there's just a lot happening before people meet this intersection, and they are unaware of all that they have to be aware of.
Yep. And Paul, I think you had an explanation of why that intersection never had the curb extensions downtown. No discussions or.
To allow for the turn lanes, the left-hand
Okay.
I also think you have like some congestion fatigue right there. You know, if they've sat in traffic since the lazy seat, and they're finally through town, they're used to it. They've got a little bit of that.
So all these longer term ideas, you know, all of them pretty much requires that collaboration with freight, meaning the alternate route is in place and it's the alternate freight route, right? So if we're doing like raised crossings and roundabouts, that's all basically saying that freight movement might be constrained getting through downtown. But, you know, if we're able to facilitate that, that really opens up a lot of different ideas for our downtown, right? Where it really becomes more of a downtown avenue with those raised crossings, with maybe an additional roundabout that, you know, the aesthetic value of that as you come into town. I mean, there's a huge calming effect to approach into a roundabout that then you're in downtown, you know. So I think, I mean, those are exciting, but there's a huge caveat that, well, we got to complete our alternate route and we got to get the freight, you know, folks on board with that, right?
Yeah, that's right. I think the one addition to that is that over-dimensional loads may still
Yeah.
be something to think about, because, you know, if you look at the Locust roundabout, that's how they get through. The roundabout is straight. They don't want to turn as much. That's an accommodation load. It's not a design load, so it's just something to think about. There's probably always a freight context to downtown, but it's going to be significantly different if there's an option to go around. So, yeah.
And there's deliveries and everything too with trucks and stuff that come downtown.
So in terms of the mini roundabout, just for clarity, I've seen them in other places. What you're really suggesting is something that would fit into basically the current asphalt proponents, that it really is kind of like a mound in the middle that you have to kind of drive around. I've seen some in Bend and other cities that are designed to just do that. They really aren't like the roundabout at either end of town. They're really, we call them a roundabout, but what they really are is almost a traffic calming device where there's some kind of a mound in the middle of the road and you have to go around it in order to get through.
Yeah, and our larger vehicles could go over it, which is why they don't have landscaping in the middle, that kind of thing. Yeah, but a full roundabout would require taking out the corners, and then you build something to serve people that aren't, you take out the uses that you're trying to serve to build the roundabout. So we didn't think that was the right solution there.
All right, going to the east side. As you're approaching, the first bullet here is the US 20 Oregon 126 roundabout. This one is mentioned in the TSP as an option, but this would kind of help to address some of those fast speeding concerns as you're coming into town, as you then have a double 2 roundabouts in a row, and then also gets rid of that merge area. Buffered bicycle lanes on this kind of short little section. Currently are bike lanes there today, but the buffer would really just narrow up those lanes a little bit more to hopefully kind of create that traffic calming effect. Again, on the roadway lighting as an option as you're coming into town, and then an RFB at Larch. So the RFBs would essentially replace those pedestrian warning signs that were mentioned in the near-term projects. You would kind of put these in at the entry points to downtown instead of every single crosswalk is the idea behind those. Then switching to the downtown core, the first bullet, upgrading intersection crosswalk lighting. So today there's more of a decorative lighting at the intersections, and we think we could kind of switch just the fixtures out to focus the light more towards the crosswalks to provide a little more direct light for the pedestrians crossing at night. And then the little bit larger one, the next bullet, again requiring the freight collaboration, what we called regular spot improvements. So we thought of every other intersection doing something like the Pine Street intersection. Could be a raised intersection. There's a raised crossing option as well. The every other intersection kind of leads to that opportunity there for that mid-block crossing between Oak and Elm. So again, kind of creating that continuous physical traffic calming throughout the downtown core.
Those freight trucks, the low boys that have like really low clearance, do those have issues with these raised intersections and they have to go around?
They don't like going over them. I think that's the feedback we would get from them. So it would be important to have an option, right? I don't think it would require some more coordination with freight. It has happened places, right? There are places that this kind of stuff is done, but I think what city manager said earlier is that when you get the options around town, that creates more of a discussion for it.
And it would probably eliminate raised crosswalks and stuff like that out on Parkway, because we just want one direction, that one one way to go that doesn't have them at all. Is that probably correct?
I think so, unless it's so successful that we're having safety issues with speeding, those type of things. We could look at things like that, but you're absolutely right. I mean, we got pushed back even to the roundabout designs from car carriers that have really low to the ground. I mean, almost a credit card width of room for navigating vertical clearances. So that's where the rolled curves and center islands and all those things really kind of designs have to be because of that.
I think we ought to have spike strips come up from the ground if you're going over certain 80 miles an hour and just tires back and solves the problem.
Well, I know that we talked in the meetings about lighting, and as you mentioned here, and I think there's an opportunity since we have to make the dark sky changes. I think the upside here is I think we could be able to accomplish two things with one project, and might even be able to open up some other funding sources for, you do dark sky, but there could be some other transportation related sources that would help us fund that project, because I know that's been still a little bit of a question mark of how we were going to fund that. So it could be a positive thing in disguise.
Then continuing with the downtown core area, and with the lighting discussion, we looked at some possible pedestrian scale lighting. So this would focus lighting the sidewalks a little more and less of the roadway, but just providing more uniform, continuous pedestrian scale lighting there, rather than kind of the businesses having to take that on. And providing lighting where they would like. And then the next one is corridor restriping. So even though it is restriping, this would still require quite a bit of freight collaboration because you are changing lane widths. But I think currently the cross section through town is about an 8-foot parking lane, which then gives you 14-foot travel lanes between intersections, and then at intersections, you have a 16-foot lane between your curb extensions. And so thinking through how we could restripe that and provide kind of a more typical 12-foot travel lane, that then gives you some buffer between intersections for kind of a door opening zone. We heard some concerns about like trying to open your door while there is traffic can be pretty difficult. So providing something like that while narrowing the lanes. And then if we just continue that 12-foot lane width through the intersections at the curb extensions, we get about 4 feet kind of additional curb extension at the intersections there, which would help with that kind of curb extension visibility piece. Then moving on to pilot projects. So these are projects that are temporary to see if they're effective and if they affect kind of a lot of aspects of the downtown and see what happens. So the first one is removing parking on alternating sides of Cascade Avenue. So I know with parking being very important through the downtown core, we thought a pilot project here for this would be a good opportunity just to see if the safety improvements are there. And this is really trying to cut down on that people crossing the street between intersections. So we'd be strategically removing parking across from popular destinations. Like for example, the Sisters Bakery, we saw a lot of people crossing mid-block there. So we would look at removing the parking on the opposite side of the street so people aren't able to park and then run across the street. One important kind of piece to note for these is you want to fill the parking with something to kind of keep that narrowed lane feeling. There were some concerns about it being then kind of more of an open stretch of road if there is no parking allowed. It's really kind of trying to think through what to put in there. Could be some sort of like parklet, additions of seating, things like that. Then the second pilot project option, also for a similar goal of reducing the number of mid-block crossings, is providing some sort of marking or sign telling pedestrians to please like cross at the crosswalk. These could be a couple ideas were brought up of putting paint on the actual sidewalk, put it on the curb, or put signs up kind of near the curb to help direct people towards the crosswalks. And again, these would be in strategic locations of kind of outside those popular businesses or near the driveways of some of the parking lots that are off the street to hopefully reduce those mid-block crossings. Then we're on to next steps. So that was our list of our toolbox of options. Again, these reflect national best practices. So a lot of these have had studies done and shown that they do improve safety. And then a lot of the more specific project designs will need to happen just to evaluate the local context of the area. And then also kind of with that freight traffic piece is a pretty major one for a lot of these longer term options. Any questions or discussion?
Yeah, I have some things to say.
Can I just say
Oh, yeah,
one
of
thing
course you
first
can.
is that we're just kind of bumping up on our time limit here, so I just want to check with everybody that we're okay to keep extending the workshop so we can see the neighbor impact presentation, or I don't know if we want to bump that into the regular meeting, but I know this was on our agenda, so I don't want to mess things up too much. So, but I just want to make sure that everybody's good with that. So, okay, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Sorry. Time. Okay. So Paul was generous enough to share notes with me from the Public Works Advisory Board. And so I'm going to share some of my thoughts and their thoughts interspersed, and I'll be sure to clarify. Both the Public Works Board and I both agree that the near-term suggestions make a lot of sense. I'm there. They were there. So we'll skip over any details there. I feel like, we did the budgeting for the 26, 27 year, and not that we need to fully discuss it tonight, but I would like to bump up talking about doing the Barclay project. I think it makes sense in the context of this discussion here, and I think that waiting another full year is too long, and especially with the limitations it puts on some of the other projects that we would want to do for safety in the downtown corridor. One of the overall feedbacks from the Public Works Board is just making sure that any updates we do still make it feel like community downtown, and so just kind of visualizing it through that lens and saying, does this still feel like we're coming into a great downtown? I think a lot of these can be done in that manner. And also, if we're looking at the flashing beacons, those are at either end of downtown. It's not like we've got them going in on every block, which would then, I think, be pretty disturbing, especially until we see how much they're making a difference. Let's see if they have anything else. Yeah, I think that kind of covers it. Thanks.
Can I ask a question about your comments? Moving up the Barclay work, Was that a PWeb comment, your comment, or both? Everybody kind of agreed on it.
That is my comment, but they also suggested including the Barclay improvements to help with congestion and getting to work on a truck route.
Yeah, I was just trying to,
Yeah,
just
absolutely.
trying to make sure.
Nope, I appreciate that. Yeah, of course.
I agree. The near-term suggestions, they all seem like low-hanging fruit. I'd go for it, and if we could approve it right now and just have you spend the money soon, I'd do that. I think there's probably a process to go through, like maybe an ordinance or something, but yeah, I think it's good. So as soon as we can get it through us, right now we're the roadblock on those easy things.
No pun intended.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The scope of your analysis covered the downtown area there, which is basically just one speed limit of 20 miles per hour. Was there any concern about that speed limit? Is it the right speed limit for our downtown core? Do you have any feedback on that?
I don't think we'd want to go faster, and I don't think the ODOT would let us go slower. So that's probably it's a good speed for downtown and just getting people to consistently go. That was the focus. So yeah, no, I don't think any major considerations to changing that. Just making sure that was reinforced.
Okay, and your slide that was giving the recommendations coming in from the west to the Pine intersection, where you had some ideas. I think it was previous to that. Yeah. So I know this was out of your scope, but kind of talking about speed limit again. In the packet that we received, we had a page from our transportation safety plan from 2021 that showed all the speed limits. So coming in from the west to the Barclay roundabout, people coming in at 45 miles per hour. They hit the roundabout, they probably get down to about 13 miles per hour. They come out of that roundabout and then they have 35, and then they get to here. My thoughts are, what could we do to get rid of the 35 and say you come out of that roundabout, it's 20, because we're putting a new park in there. We've got now Hood going, renamed to Sisters Park Drive, going all the way through to a development. So I guess my question is, and maybe it's a question for ODOT, what does it take to have a speed limit considered and changes to the speed limit?
Yeah, I could speak. So we've looked at this section a couple of times. Every time we do a project, I think we try to evaluate the speeds out, and when we put a new roundabout in or something that changes the speed. We don't go lower than 20. We would just have to do an investigation, and it would have to be requested from the city. I think kind of recently there's been some improvements. It could be time to do it. It usually takes us about a year to get to it because we have such a backlog, but it's something that we could look into. But they're set on basically the 85th percentile rule, and most people drive what's safe and prudent, 85% of people. So there's a little bit of leniency, but it's not hard to get changes, but it is sometimes based on what data we get from how fast people are going.
Yeah, because like we said, they slingshot out of the roundabouts, and I appreciate the ideas that you guys have here in terms of trying to get them to slow down earlier before hitting Pine. I would even go so far as just making that whole stretch 20 miles per hour. Because of the improvements and changes we're making in the development that's going around there, where there will be more pedestrians. Thank you, Dan.
Yep, no problem.
Yeah, and I remember somebody at some point telling me that as the Woodlands develops down that side, that would kind of ultimately trigger the speed limit dropping, but
that'd be great.
Yeah, because
I wondered the same thing coming off of it, and I'm with you with all the developments going on there, with the park across the street, and with some potential other development going in around the Bi-Mart area and those apartments. It may be time to look at whether that short 35-mile-an-hour stretch is wise and prudent.
I think as a council, we could decide to ask staff to make that request upon our behalf at some point soon.
I appreciate your answer, sir.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the doubling up of the signs, like here on both sides of town. For one thing, it mirrors all the signs coming in from the west, or you're traveling eastbound on ODOT, and I wish it was the case on the east side of town. But I just think it's really valuable, especially on curves and shaded spots, and your eye lines going a different direction. And so I think I kind of have high hopes that doubling up the signs would be really effective, and then the speed feedback signs, I think, could all be really effective. I did have one question for ODOT. If, because we have the reader board on the new roundabout, is that something in the summertime that we could have saying, caution pedestrians or caution slow traffic during the May through October?
Yeah, unfortunately, no, those have pretty specific guidelines to use for like emergency situations, not necessarily just watch out for pedestrians, unfortunately. So I wish the rules were different, but it's pretty standard, like carry chains, crash ahead, take a different route, things like that, road closed, that kind of stuff.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Good work.
Yes, thank you. I like what Black Butte does every so often, the community outside of Sisters here, that they just put an empty deputy police or police car just sitting there. It's just empty. It tends to help. Put a mannequin in it or something.
We could hire somebody to just wag their finger at people as they go by too. That's pretty cheap. Oh, all right. Well, thank you for that. And
Thanks for the feedback. That's
yeah.
great input. We'll circle back.
We'll get a
kind of refine this final report and then have it to work with.
okay.
Working with ODOT.
Yeah, it's exciting. I think there's a lot of good stuff in there.
Thanks, Paul.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.
Thank you, Dan.
Really good work for 3 days.
Yeah.
And then next up, going a little long tonight, don't feel rushed. Scott, we have Scott Cooper from NeighborImpact. No, you're fine.
We're all excited to hear you.
Okay. All right, and then if you could turn your microphone on. Oh, there's more. Ooh, stickers. We got swag coming. All right, there you go.
Okay.
All right.
Get set up first.
Thank you for being patient. So
Yeah.
take it away.
I would say, just to open, when I was a little kid living in Prineville, my grandfather worked for Barclay Logging, and he did a lot of logging around the Sisters area. And for some reason, we were here a lot, probably checking in on him or picking him up or something. And that would be the late 60s, early 70s. And I couldn't have imagined there would be a conversation about this level of traffic volume or anything related to the Sisters that I remember from that period. An amazing story for our community. So thank you for shepherding it into being a wonderful community treasure for all of us. I'm Scott Cooper. I'm the Executive Director of NeighborImpact, and I was asked to come tonight and tell you a little bit more about NeighborImpact because I don't remember who I was talking to, but somebody from the council said, I don't think we totally know the scope of services that NeighborImpact offers. So I hope by the end of tonight, you'll know a little bit more about that scope of services, and you will know a little bit more about what we have planned for Sisters and the impact that we are having. So we'll start with just a few facts about us. We were created in 1985 by the 3 counties. We're the designated community action agencies serving the Central Oregon area. There are 18 community action agencies across the state. Community action is born out of the Great Society program. It was created in 1964. And there's about 1,000 agencies across the country. We're one of them. We're also the regional Head Start provider. We're also the regional Housing Counseling Center. We're also the regional Child Care Resources Center, and we're the regional food bank. So we have lots of different identities depending on where you meet us. We recently have expanded services beyond Central Oregon. We have limited services in Wasco, Hood River, and Sherman counties, and we just picked up some contracts in Harney and Grant counties. So we are getting bigger and bigger. We are the largest nonprofit in the region based on the client served basis. We serve an unduplicated about 60,000 residents annually. The number of services we provide on a duplicated basis, meaning people come more than once, get counted every time, is about 1.1 million every year. And most of that's in the food bank. We have 12 major programs. We are at about 60% of our total $47 million budget is distributed directly to clients. Doesn't go into staffing or services or anything else. A big chunk of the rest of that is the Head Start staff that's in the classroom. Those I would call direct services, but they technically get counted into wages and payroll. We're about 67% state funded, about 20% federal funded, 13% private funding. Our overhead cost runs a very economical 7.9% of our total budget. That's a management and fundraising cost. We've got 300 employees. We're the 20th largest employer in the region, and we run about 34 separate facilities around the region. Important to understand that we serve both low-income residents and moderate-income residents. And increasingly, we're doing more work with that working class group, people that are working a job or 2 jobs full-time, and there's just not enough to make the budget go around when you consider the cost of housing, the cost of childcare, the cost of gas, the cost of food. They come in and they get help from us from a variety of ways. We even have some programs that have no income limits. Particularly, we did a heat pump program last year where you didn't have an income limit. We artificially constricted that so that 60% of it went out to low and moderate income households. But some people came in and said, hey, I want one of those, and we helped them. There's the map, the service map there of our actual service territory that's growing. These are the services that we offer. I'm going to talk about each one of them individually. But energy assistance, child care, food bank, housing, weatherization, supportive services, that's a new program we have. It is mostly focused on the foster care population and trying to dig into that as a root cause of poverty. Head Start, Home Source, the REP Payee program, the community development programs, lending, and homeless services. Notice the asterisk on homeless services. I want to get this really clear. We are not the regional planner and the great mind behind the regional homeless strategy. That role has passed to Central Oregon Intergovernmental Council. They're having lots of fun with it. And our job is to provide quality services, and then we have some pass-through funding that comes in from feds and state that we redistribute to community partners. But if you're looking for the answer to what is the region going to do about growing homelessness, go talk to somebody else. We don't have the answer. Okay, food bank, we're feeding about 90,000 people a month. We provide more than 4.5 million pounds of food. We have 57 partners in the Tri-County area, and including the reservation. Our energy assistance program, we're helping people with just paying their heating and cooling bills. We did have a low-income water assistance program that was attached to this. That was, Sisters signed up for that. We were able to help a number of people in Sisters. It was very popular, it was very successful, and unfortunately the legislature chose not to refund that. So we're still working on trying to get them to open up that possibility, but that was very good for municipalities in buying down their debts and not having to increase rates for losses. Weatherization is a more sophisticated side of energy. Weatherization will come in, look at a house, see what we could do. This is for people at 30% of area median income or below. So these are the poorest of the poor. But it is an anti-homelessness strategy because you're fixing up houses so people can stay in them and they don't literally fall around their ears. And so we'll come in and put in insulation, replace windows, replace roofs sometimes, whatever it takes to bring that house up to code. There is a period where we have to get the savings back in energy savings over what we've put in, and that's sort of complicated state-provided formula. But we have a number of folks that take advantage of that. We do about 110 jobs every year, and that's where we're working in the northern counties, Wasco, Hood River, and Sherman, and we have that contract as well. And we are seeing the pace of that pick up, and I think it's great. We can just keep people out of homelessness for a while longer. A lot of those folks are elderly and disabled, and who knows where they would move if they lost their houses.
Scott?
Yeah.
How do those families or individuals come to you? I mean, just
It's an open application on our website. We promote this all the time. Okay. The hardest part with that program is getting people to apply. Most people do not believe that something this great could be true. It's an odd program. Yeah, there must be, and it's really not. We're going to do it. We'll even do it for landlords who have renters, but the landlord has to agree not to sell the house as soon as it's improved for a period of time. So we always are open for applications, and we have a pipeline for people to get on there. It might take a year before we get to you, but we'll get you in as fast as we can. And we've got, fortunately, Central Oregon is, of the 18 agencies, it's one of the few that's actually delivering on that program. So we have lately been getting other people's money, which gets redirected at the end of the biennium. So we build up that pipeline, and then we move as fast as we can to spend out our money and everybody else's. Housing, we have a housing stabilization program. So this involves several things. We do run a small shelter in Redmond. We do fund some of our other partners around the region to help them carry out their homeless services mission. We have rental assistance that we provide, and we have eviction prevention, and then we do case management to make sure that those people that get assistance are succeeding in the places where they are placed. It is a very popular program, as you can imagine. The state took a sharp turn in its philosophy in the last legislative session. They said we want to stop funding prevention and we want to continue funding intervention. So money that would have gone to us for long-term rental assistance or eviction prevention now goes to shelter operations. That's because the state doesn't have enough money and they had to decide where to put it, and that's how they decided to do it. We personally believe strongly in a prevention strategy. We don't just hand out money willy-nilly. You have to demonstrate to us that you have a plan for the next month before we'll give you any sort of assistance. Because if we're just kicking the can down the road, why don't we just not do that in the first place and get on with the inevitable? But if you can show us that we'll stabilize you with a rent payment for 3 to 6 months to even up to a year, and that there's a plan beyond that, yeah, we'll try and step in and help you. We think prevention is way, way cheaper than intervention. But the state has a slightly different point of view on that.
Scott, so the transitional family shelter is different than the Stepping Stone shelter?
Stepping Stone is our transitional.
It is. Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I'm really proud of that project. That's in Bend. City of Bend backs that one. 52 of our families there in the last 24 months that have been placed in that have gone on to permanent housing. So that is really working from a transitional standpoint. And we are operating that at a cost of $17,000 per bed. I heard from another partner, I won't name them, but I was astonished, that they were being paid $109,000 per bed here in Central Oregon. So I think we're getting a pretty good deal. I know that our $17,000 is the lowest cost of any of the Central Oregon shelters. And that's, I think, in large part because of the economies of scale that we can bring to the operation.
I want to add that I think that one of the reasons we're seeing the prevention versus intervention discussion at the state level is that not every one of the organizations that are funded like yours in the Valley and work as effectively as yours does. And I would say that I think that your success with the prevention component is probably not necessarily the norm statewide.
I would diplomatically say that if you've seen one community action agency, you've seen one community action agency. There's a lot of variation in the way we approach the work, both philosophically and operationally. But I love all my peers. I just may not do things the way they do them. Child care. I'm excited about our child care resources department. It has grown to be one of our bigger departments. We focus in 4 areas: quality, capacity, workforce, and subsidy. The quality piece, we're working with the individual providers. We have 5 providers here in sisters that we work with, just trying to help them do best practice, both in terms of how they serve children, but also in how they manage their budgets and how they run as good businesses. Capacity is growing. I'm very proud of our region. We have crawled out of the childcare desert status that we were in 2 years ago, and we have managed to our population over 3. We're still in a desert for 0 to 3, but our population over 3, we've got the right number of slots for families that need them. Affordable slots, that's a different conversation, but the slots are there. We did a huge capacity thing with money that we got in 2023. We've added over 1,000 slots with just that money, or over 1,500 slots in the region of new capacity. With some investments in 85 separate new providers that were trained up and supported with small grants to bring their work online. Some of them were not able to come online even though they got supported for it because there weren't facilities that were appropriate or the cost of facilities was so high. It's a big challenge for them. But we as a region have regained all of our slots that we lost during COVID. And remember, the country lost 52% of its childcare slots during COVID. We in this region were able to use some support from this program, and we only lost 38% of our slots. We've gained all of that back and added 1,000 more slots. So I'm actually really proud of the work that group did. We're training up workforce. We do some subsidized COCC training so people can get into the childcare industry. We do a little bit with OSU as well. And then increasingly, we're passing through subsidies coming from the state and feds because childcare is not affordable for lower income households without some sort of subsidy. So we've got 3 separate subsidy programs. That's limited. You can't just walk in and ask for it, but if you're the right category and the right income level, we may be able to help you. All of our subsidies are work related. So you either got to be taking that subsidy to work or to pursue work, like education. And that's been very successful for people. HomeSource. HomeSource is our home ownership and asset building center. And we'll help people with just getting their basic financial capability down. So that's building budgets, building resumes, building out their ability to get ready to become a homeowner. It's about counseling people about how to get into homeownership. That process can be very mysterious if you've never done it before. And there's lots that you may just encounter a no when you walk into a mortgage lending institution. Well, we help turn that no into a yes by working with those families to show them what can be done. If they engage in the full suite of homeownership programs, they can access certain federal lending programs that will reduce their interest rates. So that makes that really important there. We do reverse mortgage counseling. Some reverse mortgages are a really good product. A lot of them are a ripoff, and it's good that we have somebody that can talk to people and show them how not to get themselves into long-term trouble by participating in a program that won't work for you. We do mortgage assistance and foreclosure prevention when we get funding for that, which sort of opens and shuts. We have a match savings program. So if you enter the lottery and you get into the match savings program, it will take you probably 8 years given the size of the lottery. But we will allow you to start saving toward a specific goal for education, business development, home ownership. There's a number of other categories too, and we'll match your savings $5 to every $1 that you save to help you accelerate your way into improving things. We can count, last time I looked, we can count 94 going concern businesses in Central Oregon that were started as a result of the IDA program. So I really love that program and what it can do. My favorite one was a lady who opened a floral shop. And then all she needed from us was a van that was big enough to haul these huge floral arrangements to weddings. And so we got her van, she got that. Then she gets a call from the government of China, which asks her to come and be their floral designer and teach their hotel industries how to design Western floral arrangements that are appropriate in Chinese places. Now she flies back and forth to Beijing from Bend, Oregon, to do her instruction thing using, and it all started with a van that we paid for. So that was kind of fun. I like that story. We have our home buyer program. We have a number of folks that are able to point to that and say they bought, and then we have a lot of education and one-on-one counseling for people.
So
Lynn,
Scott,
yeah.
I think if I'm making the right connection, a lot of our Habitat for Humanity owners are going through some of your financial training.
We do for Habitat. They've signed up with us on a contract. Well, Rooted Homes does the same thing, and a couple other affordable housing. Almost all the affordable housing providers are doing that. So we do their income verification, and then we'll do some homeownership classes to help people get into that
Yeah.
work. Yeah.
No, it's
We're
really,
just trying to
I think
stabilize
it's really
people.
helpful, yeah.
Get you into housing and then keep you in housing is the goal. Every one of those helps us reduce the homeless demand and makes people more permanent and stable members of the community. Okay, lending, we have 3 areas we lend in. We'll help people do home rehab. I have to limit the number of those because those usually end up being what we call a deferred loan. So we will get your house fixed up so you're not an eyesore in the community anymore, and you're not putting yourself in danger with the fact that you don't have a plumbing system or you don't have a sewer system that works or something like that. We will get that house fixed up, and then these are for very, very low income people, and then we will defer the payment on that until the time of sale or transfer, which means we're carrying that loan on our books for 10, 20, 30 years, who knows. So we have to limit the number of those because it's all cost until we get a payoff on the end. Septic replacement, we're doing some of that work here in Sisters. I've seen things come through for that. Mostly that is in South County where the water table is really high. And there's some specific funding that comes from Deschutes County for us to serve that down here. We were doing, when we had funds, well replacements. So people whose wells had run dry who would come in. That kind of backed off, the demand backed off when we got a little bit more.
You were trying not to say dried up, didn't you?
Yeah. Did I not say that? And Sisters in particular took advantage of that program. We had a lot of it. We paid for some wells that were well over $50,000 to $75,000 in this area. And that was a cool program. The state was funding it because they would come in and take the loan out from us, and then once they got it done, they could apply to the state for a grant. Why they didn't set that up so that they would apply first, I don't know. But then they would immediately pay us back. So that worked out pretty well for us, being able to run that money through and get work expedited and cut out the paperwork from the beginning. Because when your well is out of water, it's kind of a crisis. And then lastly, we're doing some down payment assistance loans so that we can help people reduce that 20% that they would have to pay in order to get into housing and make housing more affordable. We have a representative payee program. That's an unusual program in that it is helping people who are too cognitively or physically impaired to pay their own bills. We estimate there's about 1,200 people in the region. We have a cap of 250 that we can serve based on DHS's willingness to pay the bills. But we just come in, we take over their Social Security, their disability payment, and we make sure their basic needs get met every month before they get access to the rest of it for discretionary spending. So if you're going to have to get your groceries, you're going to have to get your rent paid, whatever the situation is. Some of those stories are pretty amazing. I had one lady who was very unhappy. She was appealing to my office because she was mad at the rep payee manager because she was just certain that she needed to give her whole check to a church which had convinced her that she should be loving the Lord with her paycheck. And we said no to her because we needed to pay her rent first. She can have whatever's left after we get her basic needs met every month, but she can't have it all. And that's the kind of thing that I think we help avoid with that program.
So are your 250 slots pretty much always full?
We have a waiting list right now. Yeah, we would strongly like to expand that program. We know there's demand out there, but the state has its limits in terms of what it can afford to do. Head Start is our program that serves Crook and Deschutes only. That's called a pre-kindergarten. It's been around since 1965, I think. In addition to pre-kindergarten, we also provide family support, helping people get a long-term plan so that we are dealing with what we call 2 generations in poverty, the kids as well as the parents, sometimes even the grandparents, trying to come up with a structure for them that'll help make sure that when they exit program, that family's a little more stable. And then we have nutrition. We feed about 1,200 kids a day, 1,200 meals a day in that program. And we also look out for their health and dental care, getting them connected to services. Now, we don't pay for that, but we'll get them connected to Oregon Health Plan or Mosaic or wherever they're going to get their help. So we have 519 children in that program right now, scattered around. Early Head Start, we've just launched that one the last couple of years. That's for little kids 0 to 3. And that's a very small program at this point because infant care is very expensive. but each one of those centers has 8 kids in it, and that's helping people on the lowest end of the spectrum be able to access the workforce by being able to have a place to put their kids during the day. Okay, Sisters. What are we doing in Sisters? Well, with food, we served 21,440 people last year. We do a mobile distribution here once a month, bring up our big mobile van and hand out as much food as people will take. We supply Core Market and Sisters Kiwanis and Family Kitchen with food so that they can run their services. Housing, we served 5 households with 8 individuals, provided $13,792 in eviction prevention. We provided another $77,634 in rental assistance and case management. And we gave $15,000 to Core and Sisters Cold Weather Shelter to sustain their operations.
Is this all last year?
This is all 12-month numbers. Yeah.
Okay.
Energy assistance, we actually are picking that up. I'm kind of happy with that one. We were 94 households served in the last 12 months for $42,000, but in just the last 6 months, we've served 86. So, and that's because we got a new infusion of cash when the state increased the Oregon Energy Assistance Program. So we've tried to focus on Sisters as a priority in running that through, and that has been very helpful in being able to do that. I think we're going to do better on that in the next year. Childcare, there's 180 slots that we're supporting through 5 different providers. Weather Station has 3 homes in the last 5 years, and HomeSource served 34 people, including 6 home purchases and 5 match savings accounts, 3 cases of rep payee here, and 1 rehab loan in process at the moment. Upcoming, some of the things we want.
Can I ask a couple questions? Or it's one question, but on a couple topics.
Yeah.
So, like the housing, like keeping people from eviction and getting rental assistance, are those also just apply on your website, or are people being funneled to you?
Everything is available on our website.
Okay.
And everything is available both in an online application and in part you can do a paper application. We have duplicates. Okay. And you can reach out and have somebody help you through the application, and they're in multiple languages. I think they translate to 193 languages. So it's supposed to be very, very easy. We are now in the midst, we'll see how this goes, we're on the leading edge of AI introduction in our industry, and pretty soon we'll have an AI bot that will be able to help just walk people through the process and accelerate and expedite their ability to apply. And that will, once we get the AI on, we can offer 24/7 application process. Right now, you have to reach us during business hours if you can't do it on your own.
I'm just, I like to visualize, like, well, how does somebody end up getting help? And I know we have like Thrive here at the library who can, who will help direct, but, people don't always know where to go for help. So what?
Like you're setting up my presentation.
Oh, okay. Okay. Keep going, please.
That's so
going.
great.
Yes.
So here's what's coming.
I don't.
We're going to open an early Head Start Center here next year.
Okay.
We're excited about that. We need some extra money to come through from the state, but we're told we're going to get it. So that is the plan. If I don't have the money from the state, I will reprogram around the region, and we will get an early Head Start Center here one way or the other. It's needed in Sisters. We want to open a liaison office. We have liaison offices in the other communities outside of Bend and Redmond, and we don't have one in Sisters. Our impediment is we need to do that as soon as possible, but it's space dependent. We have to find the right space. And the right space means a space which is not so run down it's insulting, and not so upscale that our clients don't feel comfortable there. And we really have to have another partner in the space with us, because with the population we serve, some people may, get a little crazy, and we need to have, for security purposes, to always have another body around somewhere. So we like to co-house with people. We also need it to be somewhat visible so people can find us. So we are working with a number of Sisters groups. We haven't settled on one yet. This came out of our listing session that we had up here in August. We heard some really exciting things from people, and so I hope soon we'll have that office open and our half-time liaison hired so that we can do that navigating piece that you were talking about. We recognize the importance of that. Sisters traditionally has not been an area that generated a lot of demand, but we're experiencing great growth in that, and it is time to step up to the plate on that. So that's a personal priority for me, so it's going to happen. We did something a little bit different. Last summer, we had an opportunity to be a respondent to the flat fire, so we set up a community chest. People contributed to that. C4C helped us in being able to sort out the needs on the other end and figure out who needed a check and who didn't. Basically, we were able to help 5 families who've suffered total loss of their properties and just give them an unrestricted check and say, go and get your needs met, and sorry that happened to you. That was the seeds of a regional disaster recovery fund, so we are now prepared to replicate that in all the other communities of Central Oregon, but it'll always be Sisters in the Flat Fire Fund that started it. So thank you for that gift. And then lastly, we have a community development program, and we are always interested in working with you to try and access additional infrastructure dollars or energy and climate dollars or dollars where we have expertise. Andrew Spreadborough, who used to be the executive director at COIC, some of you know him, is an expert in the community development block grant program and other federal resources and can help you put together grant applications that would be complicated for accessing those resources. And Sisters hasn't particularly used that in the past, but feel free to start anytime. So that's kind of us. That's what we do. We continue to try and grow and expand and be there. I tell people sometimes the mission statement of Neighbor Impact, really, it's officially we support people and strengthen communities. But really, it's we do stuff nobody else will do. And so that's where we like to step in. And it's limited to trying to help people, but it's a pretty broad scope of things that we could do. And Sisters is certainly a huge part of and growing part of our community and our region, and we see the need, and we see, I want to just tell you personally, we see the struggles of the city council, which really has made great strides in the last couple of years in terms of trying to embrace the totality of the humanity that lives in your borders and say, how do we make life better for everybody? We experience that all the time and appreciate that it's a difficult thing to turn history around sometimes, but you're definitely making progress in that. So thank you very much for your support, and we hope we're allowed to continue to be supportive of you.
Oh, please. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you very much. Do you see the growth in the Sisters area? And I know you're thinking Sisters country, and anybody with like a Sisters address isn't necessarily inside the city, but are you seeing the growth in demand because there's just growth in population and its percentage increase, or is it, economic conditions, or both?
It's really both. I mean, we certainly are seeing numbers grow, and it's always been hard to categorize exactly how many people we're trying to serve up here because there's so much forest dwelling, and it's impossible to really know the numbers of people that are in there. We know what the official population stats are, but that's not really reflective of who's here. Then there's just the cost of living in Sisters is higher than in other parts of our region, and so that stresses household budgets, especially for working class folks, even more. And then the Sisters really is a community of haves and have-nots. There's people that have a great deal of wealth, and there's people that are just trying to make ends meet on a retail salary, and that isn't working. So they're coming to us more for kinds of assistance. We're just feeling that pressure, and that is the whole country. That is the whole region. We all know what gas prices are today. We all know what food prices are. That stresses people. I feel that stress more intently coming out of Sisters. So I hope we can respond with expanded services to address that. We are on a trajectory that is going to fail on food. We are currently at we'll hit about 1.1 million in people fed this year. By 2030, at the present course, we will hit 1.6 million. That is not sustainable based on the growth in the supply of food that we have available. We're going to figure out what to do about that.
Well, I can say that, thankfully from that listening session, I'm really excited to hear that we hopefully have a presence of Neighbor Impact in our community. I think that's going to be fantastic because I think, we're one of the only communities in all of Central Oregon that doesn't have many services that our neighboring cities have. And it's frustrating. We're a small city government, right? There's only so many things we can do, but in the area we have over 10,000 people, and where La Pine has a number of services in La Pine as a similar city, we have very few of those. So we are behind the curve on that. So excited to hear that.
Odd conversation with sister service providers up here. We were talking to them about the liaison office, And the group that showed up told us that they have it well under control and they don't need neighbor impact here. And we said, well, we went to the listening session in August and we heard something entirely different from the population, and we're going to choose to respond to the population. So we're coming anyway.
Yes.
It was interesting.
Okay.
Sisters does have sometimes an independence feeling that it's good to talk about more than once.
You can
So,
be
thank
a
you.
very independent community.
Yeah.
We love you anyway.
Any other, oh, yeah, go ahead, Cheryl.
I just wanted to say thank you, Scott, and I have seen the mobile food bank out here, and there's always a group of community members taking advantage of that. Every time I see it, a good line of people that are really taking advantage of that, and it just warms my heart to see it when I do, and thank you for everything Neighbor Impact's doing. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a brand new baby mobile clinic we just got from the foundation grant. So it'll be able to go out and serve smaller areas that perhaps wouldn't be able to use the big food. It's too big to, you can feed 1,200 people off that. But a neighborhood that maybe has 400 people, we can send the mobile out and serve that neighborhood. So we could watch for more to come, if I can find the food. And popsicles. Heaven knows you need those. Yeah. Well, thank you. You're welcome to come. Any of you are welcome at any time to come visit the food bank in the headquarters in Redmond. We'd be happy to give you a tour of just how the magic works behind the curtain. It's kind of cool, actually.
Yeah, that'd be great. Okay, I think we need to wrap this up. We're running a little behind, but we very much appreciate you coming out and
you.
giving us the short version of the 3,000 things that you do, and all of your team members, so thank them as well. So really appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you.
All right.
Scott.
I'll adjourn this workshop, and we will start the regular meeting of the City Council at 7:15. Very good. Great. I'd like to call to order the June 24th, 2026 regular meeting of the Sister City Council. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, thank you. Roll call, please.
Mayor Letts,
Here.
Council President McDougall,
Here.
Councilor Predin,
Present.
Councilor Ross,
Present.
Councilor Pellerin.
Here.
All right, do I have a motion to approve the agenda for tonight?
I move to approve the agenda as submitted. Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nays, thank you. Do we have any visitor communication today?
Michael,
As normal, state your name, your address, and keep it to about 3 minutes.
Michael, homeless. In a local newspaper, an opinion was given on the topic of America's physical wars, securing our politics, or believing they should. It was written this way, quote, "An exhibition of courage and moral fortitude in the face of great odds and evil, ... So I ask of our citizens today, how are you opposing this march toward democratic destruction?" Unquote. This country has always been marching, running, swimming, pedaling, driving, riding, and diving and paving itself in the big face of enormous odds with evil. since its conception. In politics, I'm no perfectionist, though I do know many people are superb at finding faults, and faults that are not the real leading faults, as in this case. All this is ugly, yes, and it can be far more ugly when seen and felt from those previously already feeling where it comes from than those who point fingers at what's presently threatening to take away their world. A system they don't want to lose, which, if it was at all of any genuinely real, human, worthy quality, what's currently happening would not have come to be. I'm not accusing this particular individual who wrote this, far from it. The people coming to this continent starting in 1492, many were already psychologically and socially damaged long before they came. A few of your founding fathers knew this. Your independence document is historically interesting, and it also uses prose and obviously is powerful to many, while the person who wrote it was the one most upfront in saying it's just for the present situation at hand. In no way it should be taken so seriously that it perverts you and interferes when there's necessary further evolution and enlightenment necessary. A huge problem, of course. Who decides what that is? The genuinely developed and wise, or the genuine crap? This same person who wrote that document was a critic of his own creations and was always was many of the other country founders, and was aware of how a perverted system can take hold for too long and be destructive. He even used these words, quote, "the most perverted system that ever shone on man," unquote, when writing about something very large that came from the old world and had to be given leeway anyways for the political business on hand at that present time, which was vital.
Are you about to wrap up, Michael?
Locally, a posted sign says, quote, "Be calm to keep America strong," unquote. It's on a neighborhood street, which long ago I immediately noticed to wonder, does anyone here have any real soulful conscience with consciousness of the extreme difference between this type of neighborhood and what's out there? If so, I probably would have met them, been asked to visit the house, and get real bloody drunk some hot afternoon. 4, being at odds with a country with its duplicity and hypocritical self-blinding evil. Though it must be mentioned, many should not drink. If it becomes a very addictive and loss of real conscience drug. There are also many things, particularly those that are not physical, to follow up on what I was just speaking of, that have the same or even more stunting and unconscionable world-damaging effect. Last page.
But I think you've got, it's been enough. I'm sorry, it's been 6 or 7 minutes.
Has it?
Yes, it has. I know you had a lot to say, so I'm sorry, but we're running late. I'm sorry, Michael. Thank you. All right, do I have an approval of our consent agenda? We don't have any presentations, by the way, tonight, which includes the minutes from our June 10th workshop and our June 10th regular meeting.
Yep, I move to approve the consent agenda.
I second.
I have a motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Sorry.
Ayes and no nays. Thank you. Okay, on to council business. First up, we have a public hearing and consideration of a resolution 2026-12 adopting supplemental budget. Joe O'Neill will walk us through this, and I will open the public hearing. And you may start the staff report when you're ready.
Good evening, Council. So just a little brush up on supplemental budgets. We don't do them a whole lot. And the reason for that, and I guess to go a little bit further, so supplemental budget changes the requirements and the ability for us to spend more money than was budgeted in a certain fund or organizational unit. Sometimes you can do this throughout the year, but it's a little bit more efficient to do it at the end of the year. And staff's stance is always just to keep you all informed of supplemental budget items that come up, either through contract approvals or quarterly financial statements or things like that. So we try to keep you informed, and at the end of the year, try to just formally do the supplemental budget through a hearing or resolution. This one is a hearing due to the fact that one of the supplemental budget affects more than 10% of a fund expenditure. So, and we'll get to that one. So anyway, just a little background there. And so the general fund, going through the agenda item summary, now the general fund had several items that were kind of unplanned for or a little bit over budget. So, and if one of them or a couple of them, I guess, in aggregate didn't make a big difference to the budget, but, in total they all did. So I felt it was necessary to kind of jot a lot of them down here. And those things were mainly some of the projects at Gateway Park in terms of the fencing for the dog park and the labyrinth, as mentioned here. And then the next couple are the security cameras and then the HVAC replacement. And so both the security cameras and HVAC replacement, those were unexpected, as opposed to some of the fencing was just a little bit more than budget. So I think... And the Firewise too. So in the Firewise, you remember we had about $50,000 actually allocated for that, but the design, and that was for design and construction, and design work is just taking a little bit more than scope. So obviously the construction component of that will probably take place in 26, 27. But just wanted to note just the kind of the broader scope of that project in terms of design for 25, 26. So that is a general fund. And the other uniqueness of the general fund, if you remember when we approved the budget, is it just has one capital outlay line item. So it doesn't break it down by parks or maintenance. And so that's why you kind of had that broad spectrum of topics in the general fund. Moving on to the water fund. So the water fund has meters and parts, which is, I think, a line item that we've adjusted in the past. And it's a really difficult one for us to hit right on. The budget for this year, 25-26, was $40,000, and I think, like I've said in the prior years, we try to make sure we stock enough meters, because what we do is we stock the meters and then we put them in certain developments and the like, and so we just try to make sure we have enough for that demand, number one, and number two, some of those larger meters, as I noted, are quite a bit more expensive than they used to be. So and then there's some incidental meters and parts components that we invest in. So we're asking for another $20,000 for the meters and parts line item in the water fund, and the next year we made this adjustment and try to be a little more thoughtful about that. So we went to $65,000 and not the $40,000 that we did in 25-26. So we're trying to be a little bit ahead of the game here with meters and parts. And then hop in if you have any questions about any of these while I go through them. Okay, transportation SDCs. This is something that we talked about, I think, when I let you know that ODOT pulled the remaining contribution from the city from that bank account they have access to. And, we didn't expect them to do it all at one time. We had most of the allotment there, but not all of it. So the extra $16,000 will provide for the rest of the allotment that we need to contribute for that project. So actually pretty incredible. After this is, with the $1.4 million of the city is done with their contribution to the roundabout design, construction, and right-of-way purchasing for that. And
So
then
Joe-
lastly,
Joe, was that,
yeah.
so was that an increase in cost, or that was just money that we hadn't allocated to put in the account yet?
Really good question. So the money was in the bank account. This is kind of where the nuance of it is kind of confusing. The money was in the bank account, but we were kind of planning on them, I guess, taking a couple different tranches of that. And they didn't. They just pulled it all at once. And so that was kind of unexpected by us. And I guess in hindsight, we could have just put that whole dedication for that project into the expense line item for the Trans SDC. But we didn't do that. So hence the 16,000. Yep. And then lastly, and this was brought up, I think, when we had the Westside Pumpstation contract in effect, we budgeted $2.1 million in the sewer SDC fund for this project, and the project came out at about 2.8. Now, remember, this was also shared with the URA project fund. And the thing is, the URA project fund actually ate a lot of those costs last year, so we didn't have that contribution as we thought it might be this year. So what happened was the sewer SDC fund needed to take, the whole kind of excess of that cost of that project.
So was that, so that project did end up being, I don't recall when we first talked about it, so the project ended up being $700,000 higher than we initially expected?
Kind of. The design work was absorbed largely by the URA project fund, and it was going to contribute another $600,000 to that in this fiscal year. But since it was already used up, we had to use the sewer SDC fund to kind of make up for that difference.
Because of timing?
Yeah, partially because of timing. Yeah, because a lot of those expenses happened in 24, 25.
As opposed to getting the other $600,000.
That this year.
Yeah.
That's right. Yep.
Just trying to track, because it like that.
Well, it's a big number. Yep. So you're right. Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate talking through it.
And so that's all of them.
I thought that your explanation in the written material was very clear. I was able to understand it even in my state. So
Okay. Oh, good.
I thought it was well done, and thank you for the detail.
You bet.
All right, do we have any public comments on this?
None in person. If you are on Zoom and would like to make a public comment, please raise your hand now. We have none.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to close the public hearing, and then we can kind of move on to council discussion. If anybody had any other questions or comments they wanted to make.
So I guess this isn't going to address council compensation today?
Not today.
Oh, okay.
Not today.
Maybe next time.
Maybe next time.
I had a question on the landscape design project. What was the original budget for that?
50,000 was what we had budgeted. I believe the contract was approved for 14. I think it was 14,800 or 15,000 for the design work.
And they need another 7,000 over that.
That's what we're estimating, and that, yeah, I think that's kind of what we're projecting for year end. Whether that goes into next year or not, we're not sure. We just want to make sure we had that cushion this year to account for that.
Okay, and then do you think we're going to need to come back for a supplemental
for the construction of it? That's a possibility. And when we have that contract in place and that scope in place, we will definitely inform you of the possibility of making that change.
That would be in the next year's budget.
Right.
Yep. And we carried over the budget of like 50,000, right?
I believe so.
For the construction.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions or comments?
And, I would say that I like having all this at the end of the year rather than scattered throughout it. It allows, I think, a clearer picture of how we do business to anybody who's not really familiar with how the budgeting process works, as opposed to scattering it through it can be missed. I would also say that, this is something for the benefit of the public that we do to be sure that the budget is correct and accurate at the end of the fiscal year for for purposes of audit and clarity with the community.
I do have one question about the HVAC system. Is there in general a maintenance or replacement schedule for large expensive items like this?
Yeah, good question. So if you'll remember in our replacement reserve, we do account for items like this. So we have, roof has a, set useful life, HVAC set useful life. A lot of the other assets that are city-owned have an estimated useful life. And so we kind of reverse depreciate those. So, we'll put aside, say, $2,000 a year for a roof replacement. And the HVAC is no different. So kind of, a good illustration of that also this year was those water meter MXUs. We have a big allocation for those in 26, 27, and we've, set money aside every year to account for that improvement. So the capital replacement reserve kind of goes away because we're spending that money. And then the next year we'll make it to reaccumulate.
Okay, so is this coming out of the capital replacement reserve?
Part of it, yeah.
Okay. Okay, that's all I had. All right.
I move to approve Resolution 2026-12.
I'll second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any final discussion? All right, then we shall do a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
No nays, and the motion passes. Thank you very much, and don't go anywhere, because up next we have the discussion and consideration of Resolution 2026-13, amending the master fee schedule. Take it away.
Yes, thank you. Some very, very similar language here. Same song, second verse, as I like to say. So water and wastewater rates. As it says in the agenda item summary, the city conducted a rate study in 2024 to contemplate a lot of these capital projects that are set to take place, and the water and sewer funds role in accounting for a lot of that debt service. And with that came some increases to our water and sewer rates. Now, the 12% and the 4% for water and sewer, respectively, are not perpetual. They will taper off, I believe, in 2 years. But in the meantime, they were set in place to get some good reserves so we could have enough kind of fund balance to pursue some debt issuance. And so we've gone ahead with the 12% and the 4% in the plan for that, and that is reflected into the master fee schedule for both of those rates. And then lastly, we constantly try to look at the master fee schedule to see if there's any rates that are kind of not equitable or not where then we're covering the cost basically of a lot of these things we're buying, and the meters are no stranger to that. And it was just the 1 inch and larger meters that we found that were a little bit, that, like I said in the in the prior presentation, they're just getting a little bit more expensive as the years have kind of gone on, and that's in terms of technology, components, and the like. So those water meters are here. So 4-inch meter goes up from $36.78 to $5.94, and down to the 3-inch and 2-inch. And we used our current prices for those, and to try to make sure we are recapturing the cost of those meters. So we incorporated that into the water and meter rates. And then let's see. Another thing that you'd be very familiar with is the SCC rates. So those rates for water, sewer, and parks also go up by the engineering price index, and so we've made those adjustments. And in addition to that, as we've seen for the last couple months, transportation SCCs, and those are a little bit more nuanced. We added a couple extra definitions in here. As you can see, you have the single-family residence, and this was all part of the presentation by staff and their consultant, but you have the single-family residence right here, 6785. Auxiliary dwelling unit is approximately exactly a third of the single-family residence rate, and then the non-single family or ADU has that fixed rate as well. So that changes a little bit, but but it's definitely something that we've already seen, and we'll have that update, next year with all the other SDCs as well.
So non-single family or ADU basically means everything that's.
Anything other than that? Yes.
Anything other than that? Okay.
Yeah. And that's it.
All right. Does anyone have any questions or comments for Joe? No? Okay.
I move to approve resolution 2026-13.
Second?
I have a motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And no nays, and motion passes. Thank you, Joe.
Okay, thank you.
That's it.
I'm going to say, I don't know, I think you're going to lose your official designation as the money guy because your explanations are clear and concise and.
Right, yeah, they're just, it's not a cryptic, just a bunch of cryptic numbers.
Yeah.
Right, next up is a discussion and consideration of a motion to award Edgington transmission line contract, and Paul Bertagna will present this to us.
So Joe finds the money and I get to spend it. Okay, this is a public improvement contract with Robinson and Owen for $1,863,033 for the approximately 12,000 lineal foot, 16-inch Edgington transmission main running from essentially the new elementary school right there on 242 up to our existing water reservoir. This project was a recommended improvement in our 2023 water master plan, and we went out for design this past year. Beacon provided the final design, and they will provide the construction admin services as well. They came in under budget on their design, which is good news. Project, like I said, 12,000 feet of almost 2.5 miles of 16-inch PVC pipe running up Edgington Road. We're going to have 4 hydrants put in as part of the project. We'll have one down at the bottom off to the side, which will be a great water fill during wildland firefights. And we'll have a hydrant at the 100 road where there's a couple residences. We'll have a hydrant at the Brooks Scanlon Road, which is just a nice convenient location for both rural firefighting and structure firefighting to access water. And then we'll have the last one up at Remuda, which is kind of the bulk of the properties that are up Edgington Road. So not only is it going to provide or help provide fire protection, firefighting protection, but if we ever need to flush this line, if we ever need to, when we disinfect it after it's constructed, those hydrants will be key, being able to move that much water through that pipe. So we budgeted $3.6 million for this project, came in well under that and well under the engineer's estimate. Just a good bidding environment. We had quite a few bids. You saw the bid tab. And we're ready to go. Contractor's ready to go. And we will be getting to work right after July 1st.
Paul, can you remind me, is this project, the savings here, is this reducing the cash spent, or is it reducing like a loan amount?
Cash right now, but it will also reduce the loan amount in the future, potentially. I mean, there's, the way we set up our water rate structure, the way we set up our SCC structure was based off the master plan estimates. We may have, the reservoir might cost more than what we originally thought in 2023, so we don't know.
But all things staying the same, this would lower the loan amount later, but currently we still have enough cash to pay for this.
We do.
Okay.
Yep.
Great. I'm just trying to understand
Sure.
where we are on that. Thank you.
My only question, given the, because I think it was the same contractor who did the roundabout work, that did the Pumpstation that was moving a lot of material from the public works site down Locust Street?
No, that was Rickaba.
Okay, thank you.
Two different contractors,
Yeah.
yep.
Just wanted to be sure if I had to do any door knocking.
Nope, Robinson and Owen, they have their own yard in town. And
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. Any other comments? Otherwise, I can entertain a motion.
I move to award a public improvement contract to Robinson and Owen Heavy Construction in the amount of $1,863,033 for the Edgington Transmission Line Project, and authorize the city manager to execute the contract on behalf of the city and execute any necessary contract change orders and/or amendments within a contingency amount of 3% of that contract.
I'll second.
I have a motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And no nays. All right, that passes.
Oh, I appreciated the drawings. I like looking at them.
I love the drawings.
A lot of pipe.
My son liked looking at them too. He was looking over my shoulder and he's like, what is that? What are all those things?
Future engineer.
Yeah.
That's right.
Be nice. All right, next up, discussion and consideration of a motion to award Rope Street Pump Station contract.
So another public improvement contract. Robinson and Owen also was a low bid on this project. The contract amount is $993,033. In this project, this is an exciting project. It doesn't seem like it would be, but for myself and our staff, you know, what we have down there is the original sewer construction back in 2001. So we got 25-year-old pumps, we got 25-year-old generator, electrical equipment, everything else that we need to modify, update, and also make code compliant. A lot of the design work on this was really trying to figure out how we're going to do it and still keep that pump station live, because we have to. We came up with a strategy, obviously you've heard multiple times, to do the west side pump station first so we can divert at least half the flow away from Rope Street. But we are going to have to do a temporary bypass pumping system, which is rather expensive. As you can see, we're above what we originally had estimated budget-wise. We have to have that duplex pumping station in place in order to take the wet well offline, because we have to take that wet well and modify it for the new pumping systems. So we have to go in and jackhammer out concrete, put new piping in, and at the end of the day, we'll have it resealed and brand new. Same thing with above the wet well, all the electrical will be brand new. The control system will have a fiber connection to that pump station, being able to monitor not only all of our alarm systems, but, you know, pumping rates, pumping efficiency, just state-of-the-art stuff. And our guys are down there pulling pumps that are ragged up, you know, at least once a week, if not 2 or 3 times a week. And with these supposedly non-clogged pumps, the best out there, City of Bend, City of Redmond, City of Prineville exclusively use these type of pumps because they don't have to go and derag them nearly as much. So again, not glamorous, but exciting for the guys in the field for sure.
Any questions?
Can I ask a history question?
Sure.
Is this a Dick Norad project from back in the day before you got here? Yeah.
Yep, you bet.
Yeah, cool. I also noticed that Robinson Owen loves to put $33 in their bids.
I haven't asked,
Okay, just
but yeah, it's interesting.
we noticed though.
Yeah, I did too. It's a good catch.
Might have been somebody's football number in high school or something.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm ready with the motion if you want me to.
Yeah, go for it.
If anybody else? No? Okay. I move to award a public improvement contract to Robinson Owen Heavy Construction in the amount of $993,033 for the Rope Street Pump Station project, and authorize the city manager to execute the contract on behalf of the city and execute any necessary contract change orders and/or amendments within a contingency amount of 3% of the contract.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Absolutely.
And no nays, and that passes as well. Thank you.
Oh, just a quick question I forgot to ask. The genset that's coming out of the current, does that have any value at all, or is it going to be useful as a backup, or is it just plain used up?
The generator we are going to take up to the treatment plant
was just curious, yeah. Thanks. Yep, good to know.
Question. All right. Just another great reminder that poop doesn't always go downhill. It's got to go back uphill sometimes. Okay. Next up, discussion and consideration of a motion to approve city attorney services contract. Jordan Wheeler.
Thank you, Mayor. So we've had a contract with Bryant Loveland Jarvis for almost a decade, and had an initial contract for initial term, had renewal provisions in that contract, and so we've been operating on sort of a year-by-year basis under that contract, and so we felt it was time to issue a request for proposals for city attorney services, and basically establish a new contract either with BLJ or a new firm. So we did issue that RFP in April. We received 3 proposals. We had a team of staff that reviewed them, evaluated based on what we were seeking in the criteria for the RFPs. Things like their experience, how many other Oregon jurisdictions do they work with, what kind of attorneys they're proposing as part of the team that would be providing services to the city. And of course, fee structure was another important factor. So we did that evaluation. BLJ was scored the highest. The side benefit, obviously, with continuing working with BLJ is that they have experience working directly with the City of Sisters, obviously, for the last, almost 10 years. They work with a lot of communities in Central and Eastern Oregon, especially smaller communities, so they have that experience. And their fee structures are pretty competitive, especially, in comparison to what you might see out of firms in larger metro areas. So that evaluation was done. We informed BLJ. We negotiated a new contract, which is essentially very similar to the one we have, and I think the changes are very, very minor. So really proceeding with the same contract form. And overall, staff has been happy with working with BLJ. They represent us on a number of issues, both governance issues, land use planning, and as some situations arise, the city still has the capabilities of going and getting outside counsel for particular cases, like in maybe water rights or specialized land use matters, or if there's conflict of interest with matters that we're dealing with other folks that may also be using the firm for any other reasons in the Sisters area.
Can you talk about that a little bit more, like when we do have options to use other attorneys, just a small amount more detail, please?
Yeah, so typically we would contact the city attorney first, right? If there is a contract, they will or a conflict, they will notify us. They do a conflict check anytime there's an issue that may be more litigation or a land use matter, right? If there is a matter that we bring to them, so we contact the city attorney and say, we have this whatever, issue that is pretty specialized or nuanced that we might think that, either they might be able to help because their firm has somebody who has dealt with this before, or they have that special, the area of expertise. They would advise us, no, actually, you should contact this other firm or another attorney to represent you on that matter because, there's someone who does that really well, water issues or something like that. BLJ being a firm, they do have a lot of in-house talent that, can deal with personnel matters, right? Employment issues, obviously land use is a big one, governance issues with Jeremy and things like that. So, that's it.
So if we were going to be using someone else, it would usually be them directing us to go somewhere else.
Often advise us to,
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Just trying to grasp that.
Yeah. So our recommendation is to proceed with approving a professional services agreement with BLJ, provide city attorney services.
All right, thank you for that. Does anybody have any questions or feedback or comments on this?
There was a time in history where we had attorneys at every city council meeting, and it probably made it much more expensive just adding 3 hours or 4 hours every other week.
That's the trade-off.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we
kind of glad we don't. I mean, and not because I don't like attorneys. I just think the expense is not truly warranted much.
Oh, I mean, always welcome to get your input on that. You know, it's issue by issue, agenda by agenda, right? And we sort of have that discretion, you know, and we take your advice too. If you think you would like the city attorney at the meeting, would definitely bring them.
It's one of the reasons I bring it up, you know, just because we always have that perspective and people up here change, and it's always good to kind of bring it up.
Yeah.
I think I would add that when something comes up that's complex, it's nice to have the attorney in the room. We're having that discussion as opposed to on Zoom, because I think the interaction is different. But I also agree with your comment that having someone come here and paying the hourly rate to sit in a chair and listen to us talk about whatever we're going to talk about, or public comment, or whatever happens to be going on at that time, is probably not the best use of our money or their time, quite frankly.
Yeah. And it varies. You've seen the budget, right? Some years, you know, you may be getting to the six figures, right? If there's a lot of land use matters or public hearings, or, you know, if there's litigation, things like that, right? You end up spending a lot more. In other years, you know, I think this past year was more like 40,000, right? Because it's been a little more calm. But definitely with UGB and other things, we'll probably see that go up.
So I'm assuming we kind of just track that, because there's always the question of at what point do we actually add an attorney to our staff, right? And I haven't seen the need for that from my view of this. But I appreciate you kind of just giving the numbers. Can we kind of watch the numbers and see at what point we become so large, or we're spending so much that we weigh out the options of a full-time attorney on staff?
Yeah, I mean, I would guess we're still quite a ways from that.
Yeah.
You know, again, having a firm that has different folks with different areas of expertise does help, as opposed to if you had one individual, you might still need to use a lot of outside, you know, counsel.
So my question is, did we pay them to write this contract?
You know, it was funny, Carrie and I were talking about that, because, I mean, that's why I said, like, there's very little changes, and I think it was because it was, like, the intact contract from what we had developed with them previously. So, yeah, it was kind of like, well, who do we pay to review this contract? And I get, you know.
Okay.
Any chickens missing from the hen house?
No.
Right, any other questions or comments?
Oh, out of curiosity, there's two different rates, one for shareholder attorneys and one for associates. Do they make the recommendation on which, or who they assign to our request of legal services?
Good question. We don't often ask, you know, hey, could we use an associate for this issue, as opposed, you know, I haven't used a lot of that discretion, usually because the shareholder has more of the experience, you know, especially on a governance issue, or maybe a particular employment matter or land use matter. The associates typically do more of the research projects, you know, some of these things where they provide us advice about, you know, what's the rules around this, or has there been any case law about that? And you'd get, you know, more of that time spent from an associate.
In my experience, that's exactly right. If it's a complex issue where there's a lot of research time that goes on, they'll use the associate to keep the cost down to do that. And then the partner steps in and fine tunes it and presents it to us as the finding.
Right.
And that's where the partner comes in, at least in my experience when working with them, with firms.
All right, any other questions or feedback? Okay.
It's a good question.
Entertain a motion.
I move to approve a professional services agreement with Bryant, Loveline, and Jarvis, PC, to provide city attorney services and authorize the city manager to execute the agreement.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. We can. I was remiss. I need to go back on one thing. When we did public comment, I never asked if there was anybody on Zoom.
We did ask on Zoom, and there was no one.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you. I was very focused on getting this meeting moving forward since we started so late. So thank you. Other business, response to prior public comments?
No questions or comments to respond to.
Okay, and then staff comments.
Okay, so the Arts Advisory Board applications closed over a week ago. We did receive applications, and so that review, I think council reviewing that on Monday the 29th, or a few councilors involved with that, on the 29th, and then that will come to the council the following meeting for approval, July 8th, yeah.
We get a full slate?
We did get 5. We got 5 applications, and a few at the very last minute. Community grant applications are going to open on July 1st, so we'll advertise that, and that's always a fun meeting in August when the council gets to review those grant proposals. The mayor and I will be attending the League of Oregon Cities Executive Board, a Board of Directors meeting in La Pine on Friday to talk about defensible space and wildfire resiliency. This must be like the 3rd or 4th or 5th presentation about wildfire Sisters has done this year.
We don't have to do another one.
And then events, you're probably well aware, we got a big one this weekend, Big Pondaroo going on. Hopefully the weather holds, the free concert on Thursday. Prepare for some more activity in town. Your next council meeting is July 8th, as I mentioned. Community development, UGB, we're still in that process with the county in terms of working with the county planning commission. Scott will be attending their meeting tomorrow night where they're coming back for deliberations. And the county planning commission held their public hearing on May 28th, but then continued deliberations until June 25th. And so during that gap, part of the issue that emerged was this issue of needing to amend a fix to the county's comprehensive plan. So they'll likely mean a continuance of the public hearing that the planning staff are recommending. That will be until July 9th. And so tomorrow night's no public comment. It's just going to be deliberations and a request to continue the public hearing on July 9th. Annexation, we had a great workshop last Wednesday. Was that Wednesday? Wednesday. So thank you to the affordable housing developers and the developers that attended in that roundtable. Thought it was really useful, just hearing their thoughts in general, and also just continue to build our partnerships with our local builders and affordable housing developers. So we're taking that feedback, taking kind of the feedback we received after the meeting, and kind of conversations about, coming up with a second draft of an ordinance for the council and planning commission to start to chew on. And then, building permits and land use applications are slower. I think we've talked about that with the budget presentations and some of that, kind of bigger activity, but we're still pretty steady in terms of building permit reviews because Woodlands and Sunset Meadows continue to build out. So I don't know if you ever see the reports from Deschutes County, but Sisters is still pulling in a lot of single-family home permits for those developments. And then pivoting to Public Works, drum roll, we got the dog park drinking fountain is now installed. It's operational. So we're getting closer and closer to having that formal ribbon cutting. We'll probably do a soft opening before then, kind of test it with some of our four-legged friends. Signage is going to go up too now that we have the drinking fountain done. And then the split rail fencing going around the community labyrinth is in. So we're almost there. We got to get that ribbon cutting scheduled. Rodeo parade went smoothly. I think you heard the report from Lieutenant Davis about working with staff on just working out the kinks because this was the first year we used the new detours, which overall worked pretty great. But I think it was more of the side roads and handling local traffic and parking and stuff that we had staff dealing with. So just some adjustments we'll make to that. But overall, another super well attended parade and a great community event. And then, Paul was here getting some projects going and getting those funded. But we also have an RFP out for another big project. The RFP for the design and engineering for the new reservoir is out, which will be another big chunk of change because that's a multi-million-dollar project. So the design and engineering work is also pretty expensive on that project. So waiting for those to come in, and that will lead to more of that conversation about loans and borrowing to complete those projects in the next fiscal year. No, any questions for me or staff? Great, thank you.
So
Thank
Paul,
you.
you're going to tank the budget, are you?
Tank.
Man, this night is really
Yeah.
full of dad jokes.
Yeah. No, it was Father's
I'll
Day.
reserve my comments.
Yeah.
Yes, water under the dam.
Sorry.
All right. Thank you, Jordan. Mayor and Councilor business. Anybody want to start with any other updates?
I'm quick if you want me to be.
Go for it.
Love to hear the childcare stats. 4 years ago, I think we had 6 slots or 8 slots at Montessori, and that was all we had, something like that. And now we're at 180. Kudos to a lot of different people. Obviously, the Kellen Kleins of the world who were moving to this area and were concerned about it. The mayor, the VIT, Eric Strobel at EDCO took it head on. We hit it from a lot of different directions, and that's really the only way it works. You can't hit it from one direction because one way doesn't work by itself. So kudos to everybody in the community, too. Everybody supported those efforts. I had a SCED meeting last Thursday, Sisters Country Economic Development. We have it in the Woodlands model. Tim Kazar provides the space for us most of the time, and it's really fun. And we got to hear from a new business in town. Her name is Megan Kelso, and she does interior textiles and wallpaper design. She actually creates the square and then prints them out so they can go on the wall. And I think it's just another cool little tiny business here in Sisters. And I love hearing from those kind of people. SCED's going to be doing a lot more over the next year, and I'll give you more information on that another time. And then, yeah, just another reminder about council about requesting things from either staff or ODOT. It's always a reminder to me to remind everybody else that, we have the power to create this policy, and sometimes we can do it in ways that we haven't thought about before. And say, if we want the speed limit between the first roundabout and Pine Street to be less than 35, which I would support, it'd be great even if it was just 25, or 30, just taking 5 or 10 off. I know it puts ODOT to more work, but I don't mind asking for that once in a while, just because they're a partner, right? So, and that's it. Thank you. Oh, and I'm looking forward to Monday. We're reviewing the art advisory applications as a team. So that's it.
Cheryl, you want to go next?
Yeah, mine's pretty quick. Aside from the annexation workshops that we all attended, which was great, I attended the community summer solstice event at the Labyrinth and walked the Labyrinth, and
It's fun.
a great experience. The split rail fencing looks fantastic. It was a beautiful evening, and just a great time was had by everybody who attended that. And as Councilor Preeden mentioned, I've started going over some of the applications we received for the Public Arts Advisory Committee. Very excited about that. We'll talk about that more on Monday. And that's it for now.
Okay. Gary, did you have anything? Or?
Just a quick thank you to Councilor Pelham, especially in the last 3-4 weeks, for carrying a lot of the bulk on the council rules update material. I appreciate it very much, and of course Carrie too. I've looked it over, but my head isn't always clear enough to be able to make cohesive comments. Not that I make them even when it is clear, but I like them to be clearer than mud. So anyway, but thank you very much for that work.
Sarah?
Yeah. So on Monday, Carrie and I attended the Coordinated Houseless Response Office and Regional Housing Council meetings, and it was actually really one of the more interesting meetings. because we got a couple updates, and I'll give them here briefly. Just so we heard about the new managed camp that was organized by Redmond and Deschutes County, and understood a little bit more about that. And basically what they're doing is they're putting in 36 sites that have 2 different loops of 18, and that are going to have centralized water and power. And then they're also promoting using electric cooking facilities so that there's less fire risk. And one of the issues here and why they're proceeding down this road is because there's not enough housing to transfer people into. So this is just another transitional project, I guess, transitional housing that's for people who are kind of ready for housing, but there's nowhere for them to go. And it is on county and city land, so those are resources that some of the other cities have that we do not have. So it's not like I'm bringing these as examples that I think we should follow through with at this point, but it is kind of looking and watching what other people are doing so we understand. So there's also in Bend, there's a temporary safe stay area that is also known as the TSSA and also known as Juniper Ridge and/or Dirt World. And just that sentence in itself helped me a lot because often I hear of different areas and I'm really not sure which ones are the same. So again, this is in Bend, and it's a partnership between the county and the city of Bend. It's been in the news a lot lately, and it was recently shrunk to half its size. And just to give some perspective, there are 155 camps with 213 people. And another note on this project, since this project started, there's also been a reduced number of fire calls. And I'm just pointing that out because some of these, I know one of our big concerns here is fire with camps that are dispersed, and just noting that some of these projects do reduce some of the fire hazards. So anyway.
May I ask a question on that?
Yeah.
You said it is reduced by half. Has it reduced the number of people by half, or did they reduce the size by half? I just want to understand.
Yeah, and actually I meant to say that they reduced the size of the land by half. There are a small number, well, not small, I think maybe, I'm going to say around the 15% that were able to move on into housing, and then the rest of them kind of had to shrink into the space. It's my understanding that they're not allowing any new people in, like that it's just kind of.
They're managing it.
They're managing it, okay. and actually they have, it's called a by name list. So everybody that's in there is known and is, being managed by caseworkers, etc. But anyway, I hadn't really understood what some of these areas are, and it was a very helpful presentation.
That actually helps me. I've all the names independently, thought they were all separate places, and it's good to know that they're kind of referring to the same sort of a location.
Yeah.
Just the slang name for it, the realistic name for it, and the city name for it.
TSSA, is that correct?
Yeah, that's temporary safe stay area. Okay. And that is supposed to phase out in a year, but yes. That just will have to be negotiated as time goes on to see if there's places for everyone to go.
It's really good to talk this stuff out, though, because there's stigmas, obviously, with some of these names and stuff, and so it's great to know, not just for us, but just saying it out loud, I think is good.
Yeah. That's it.
That's it? Okay, thank you. I attended the Sisters Country Vision Implementation Team meeting along with Carrie last week, and the topic was, we had some people from the Sisters Business Association and Explore Sisters come and talk about kind of the business climate, the tourism climate, housing being one of the biggest issues for any of our businesses or tourism to, be able to operate successfully.
That's kind of their biggest challenge. And, but kind of getting an update on just what they're all working on, and which was, I think, really helpful for the group, because I think our mission this year was to kind of pick a couple topics about, get a little more information and see how we could, the team could further help. And this was, the economic climate was definitely one of them. So lots of really interesting feedback from that, and a good conversation. Today was the ribbon cutting, the official ribbon cutting for the Sisters Park and Rec park across the street at the community center. Even though it's been operational for a while, but they finally got the ribbon and the scissors out, and it was a lovely ceremony, and lots of kudos to the city along with all the other partners. Again, common conversation, it's all about partnerships. Nothing gets done without them. So please, everybody, go over and use that park. There's trails and playgrounds and pickleball courts and lawn that you can just hang out in. Really great facility that they're really proud about, and I think a really great asset, especially for this side of the town. For fun, I attended a Seed to Table volunteer morning, kind of along the lines of your event and yesterday, and that was a lot of fun. It was a good attendance, just a couple hours of helping them work on some projects, being a nonprofit, and it was really fun to listen to all the conversations, because a lot of people there didn't know each other, and various age groups and backgrounds, and hey, I'm new in town, or I've been here a while, or it was kind of like friend speed dating. I heard a lot of people, like, hey, we should exchange numbers and let's go mountain biking, or let's get together sometime. So great organization, and just another community event that's open to the public and free. And two other things. Central Oregon City's organization is holding a special meeting next Monday, hosting some legislators near and far around, again, our water issues, and trying to get our extension, to the water rules and dispensations that we have here in Central Oregon. They're going to expire soon, and want those extended. Also, I think the other ask is for funding for a study for artificial recharge in Central Oregon for the communities whose wells are being impacted by the piping of a lot of the canals. And so I'm just throwing that out there. I should be attending. I might have a conflict. I know Jordan, I think, will be attending for sure. And if anybody else had any interest, it's at Redmond, noon on Monday. There will be lunch. But some of our legislators will be there, specifically invited. So if anybody had interest, I could definitely check and make sure that we can get you an invite. So it's a kind of a confusing but important topic. And just let me or Jordan know. And one other thing personally is that the mayor's conference for League of Cities is coming up beginning of August, first week of August in Ashland. So planning on attending that. I just want to let you know that. And I know that in the past when you've done it, as you know, there's the basket auction. So this is when they try to raise money for scholarships for other cities.
For little smaller cities than us.
Yeah, that can't afford to get to League of Cities conferences. So it's a fundraiser. So every city is asked to bring a basket of goodies. So let me know if you've got any ideas or anything that you would like to donate, or, point to somebody that might want to donate to a basket that we can put into the auction. So yeah, just let me know about that. And I think that's all I had. Any go-backs?
You mentioned VIT. Were we scheduled to have a annual report on that from Kellen? Did that wasn't it on the rolling agenda for a bit?
I think it's next meeting.
Is it coming up?
Yeah, he was just finishing the annual report.
Okay, good.
I just saw that email.
I'd like to see that.
Okay.
You ask and you shall receive.
There you go. It's next time.
Yeah, I mean, I think that'll be a great opportunity, because I'm always so proud of Sisters and Sisters Country for not only putting a vision together, but then actually implementing it.
Yes.
And it's been years of that, and that's kind of rare, unfortunately. So, yeah, I'm looking forward
A
to
lot of those vision things fall apart. And
Yeah.
a long time ago, we talked about it. Hey, let's make sure we keep it going. And this town is good for stuff like that.
Yeah, and it's amazing when you look back on some things that have been accomplished, and some things have changed, and some things have bubbled up that weren't an issue 6 or 7 years ago, but trying to stay nimble on that. So, all right, anything else? Any go backs? Otherwise, this meeting is adjourned.
We do have something to sign for everybody, right?
Yeah, Gary.